English?
Yeah, it's just straight English and Scotch Irish and so on.
Scotch
It's just
Irish.
like Farrell, I think.
Yeah,
Really.
like Farrell.
Uh-huh.
Uh,
And I imagine it's the same name as Gerald, and so on, and Fitzgerald or something
oh,
for a
that's
guess. But
probably it, yeah. You've thought, yeah.
I never have looked it up.
Yeah.
Well, when I met Robert Graves, he
went
told me
into-
it was a Catalan name,
Uh, uh, uh,
a Catalan, a Spanish name. He was convinced it must be, or otherwise it wouldn't have the accent on the last syllable. And I told him that it was just because my family did it wrong, but he didn't believe that. It was too uninteresting a way of being
Yeah.
wrong.
They have a way of doing that to names like John Farrar. Some people turn it into Farrar,
Yeah.
And Burden, I know a lady named Burden who changed it into Burdan. Or maybe either way, I don't know which way it had been changed, but which is the right way. All right, they tell us when.
Start now? Fine. One of the things you write most about, it seems to me, or quite a lot about, more than anybody else, is man's disappearance or extinction, his replacement by the nature he came out of.
Yes, I had never thought of it before, but you make me think of certain poems of that kind, and the poem "Desert Places" is like that, and the very first one about the house. What is the poem called?
Ghost House.
Ghost House. Yeah, ghostly house. Everybody gone.
I noticed in the Ghost House that you've got some of the very same things that you have in Directive.
Yeah.
You've got that path that's healed, the same as the harness gall.
Footpath down to the well is healed. The footpath down to the well is healed. And somebody took that for a pun, but it isn't meant for a pun.
I've got.
What do you suppose I do that for? It must be because I like to think that we've got antiquity as well as other places have, as the older parts of the world. That the thing goes like that, ruins, a ruin like the wood chopper's hut in the cut-over land, that's already looks like as old as Babylon or Tyre or something.
One of my favorite parts in Tocqueville tells about when he's out in Ohio or some such place, and he goes out and he sees a kind of shack or cabin that's been left for 15 or 20 years and has gone completely to pieces and got weeds growing out of the roof. And he says, in a queer tone of melancholy, here too there are ruins. Even here there are ruins.
Who was that?
Tocqueville. Tocqueville.
As early as that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've often meant to use it at the start of a book.
Yeah. Yeah, that'd be a very interesting book to do, you see. And I'd have to come into it.
I noticed that that Ghost House is more cheerful than your later poems about, because it has a pair of romantic ghosts in it who still inhabit the ghost house.
Yeah, young lovers.
In the later ones, there isn't anything like that.
No, doesn't happen to be. I don't see why there shouldn't be, though. I wasn't precluding young love.
It's very queer to me that, and interesting to me, that you've been, that comparatively speaking, it's been a kind of obsessive theme with you, and one can find 10 or 12 poems of yours that are mostly about people disappearing. It's queer because this is the first time when it's ever been possible for people to make all the rest of the people in the world and themselves too disappear, and it gives me an uncanny feeling as if it were a premonition.
Yeah, I'm glad of that. I like to scare people, but I don't I say, you know, it doesn't make any difference what we say this day, May the 27th, there'll be no more of us. We're to be wiped out on the 27th, you know. I don't. You know, I've said a lot about that, and one of my jokes is misery loves company, and if we all went together, there'd be something in that, and when we get on the other side and brush ourselves off, and we'll all start to stand up, you know, around, and somebody will say, "Wasn't that something?" That's. And I suppose I like to think that without dwelling on it too much, on dwelling on what has been, you know, from too much dwelling on what has been, that's in the importance of one has to be versed in country things. You know, you have to. I was saying last night that one had to be versed in country things, not to believe that Phoebe's wept about this ruin. You see that it isn't a weeping matter for a lot of us. You can live there. The porcupines like it too, and I could say one had to be versed in city things, not to believe the poor are cursed.
Yeah.
That there's a lot of where people get sorrow, and a lot of it's very much made. The poor aren't cursed, and the poor, a lot of them are very jaunty, and one doesn't know how they people that come slumming don't know what they're invading, you know.
Can you remember when you wrote Directive and what it came out of, more or less, or how you?
No, that's hard to do that. I remember about when I wrote it, but you see there, the idea is that sometimes there's rest in history and going back, and also that's what it comes out to drink, you know, and be whole again without confusion, that you've got these lofty things that are permanent, the brook that's too high and lofty, too lofty and original to rage, and that kind of thing that's forever. And then you've got the old things that have lost their details somewhat so that you see them clearer. That's the past, you know, and that is a cure for confusion.
Well, that's part of it, but how about the fact that what you drink out of is a plaything that you stole from the children's playhouse, you know?
It has everything. It has that in that too. The children's play goes on forever, and the Grail idea is, the religious idea is forever. It's the two things: the oldness and the permanent, and the simplification by when you get down to the permanent things, and the simplification from loss of details, and then the whole thing just works out that way, doesn't
it? I've had quite a few people talk to me about that poem, some of them students, and to tell you the truth, most people can't make heads or tails out of it. It's too hard for them.
Yeah.
But the ones that, a lot of the ones that do get it, they get quite troubled and uneasy about the ending. It seems to them that when you tell them to drink out of to make their grail the child's plaything, that you're telling them in a much more disquieting way that life in earnest, the house in earnest, as you say in the poem, is just a kind of play. And you know, in another poem you say that life ought to be play for mortal stakes, but I don't think they take it that way. It's very troubling to people. They feel in a way that you're saying that our most serious concerns in the end are play, and that you can also say about them, weep for what little things could make them glad. About the grown people and the serious things just as much as the play things.
Yeah. Well, I mean it that way always. That I'm never so serious as when I'm playful. I've often said that nothing is ever true, philosophy or thought, or that hasn't reached the point of being sung.
One of your most playful poems to me, that's a really serious and queer poem at the same time, is one that for some reason isn't famous or in anthologies. Whenever I've read it to people, they've been crazy about it. It's An Empty Thread. Would you read it?
Yeah, you want to?
It,
Yeah, that's an interesting one. It doesn't get talked about much. You might. Let's refresh my memory. What that is that I'm going to go up. Like the old fella up the Henry Hudson. That's the one. Isn't it?
That's the one.
That's been years ago. That was very much rebuked in a long article.
Who rebuked it?
I wish I remembered. And someone brought it to my attention that he thought that I despaired of everything. And of course, that's forgetting that poetry is a good deal, has a right to moods, hasn't it? And I've got a good mind to get out of here. Do you want me to read it?
I'd love for you to. I've never heard you read it.
No, I haven't read it for a long time. But it's oftentimes my mood, but I call it an empty thread.
Yeah.
It means you might. I stay. Perhaps I better start that. I stay, see, but it isn't as if there wasn't always Hudson's Bay and the fur trade, a small skiff and a paddle blade. I can just see my tent pegged and me on the floor cross-legged, and a trapper looking in at the door with furs to sell. His name's Joe, alias John, and between what he doesn't know and won't tell about where Henry Hudson's gone, I can't say he's much help, but we get on. The seal yelp on an ice cake. It's not men by some mistake. No, there's not a soul for a windbreak between me and the North Pole, except always John Joe, my French Indian Eskimo, and he's off setting traps, in one himself perhaps. Give a head shake over so much bay thrown away in snow and mist that doesn't exist, I was going to say, for God, man, or beast's sake, yet does perhaps for all three. Don't ask Joe what it is to him. It's sometimes dim what it is to me, unless it be it's the old captain's dark fate, who failed to find or force us straight in its 2,000-mile coast, and his crew left him where he failed, and nothing came of all he sailed. It's to say, you and I to such a ghost, you and I off here with the dead race of the great auk, and better defeat almost, if seen clear, than life's victories of doubt that need endless talk to make them out. That's a good poem, I guess.
It is. It's one more of these poems that's got some extinction in it. It's queer how much that comes up.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I ought to read that sometime. But a lot of them wouldn't get it, and especially that end there. These people that have to make their victories out by cover their defeats with talk, but face right up to it is. It's got a splendid sound that way. I stay, but it isn't as if I wouldn't leave. It's got that real threatened sound.
4 or 5 of your very best narrative and dramatic poems are about women in extreme circumstances, having a really hard and warping time. Mostly, I mean, Home Burial and The Witch of Cos and A Servant to Servants and The Pauper Witch of Grafton. I like it a lot. If you'd talk some about how you came to write them in general, or some about the particular poems?
Well, I wonder if I've always thought I'd like to do something, a play about how the woman always loses. You know, I know stories that I could make almost a novel out of, another kind. Little wouldn't be a poem, but the man always comes out on top. The woman loses, and I suppose I've always felt that. And she loses in a strange way. She pulls the whole thing down with her.
Uh-huh.
She has that satisfaction. I suppose, there's one of my poems called A Subverted Flower.
Yeah, I know it very well.
And of course that's about, some woman pressed me about that. What's that about? I said, you won't know? She said, yeah, go ahead, tell me. And I said, it's about what's called coldness in women. And she shrunk away.
You told me that once, and that time you said frigidity.
Yeah, well, frigidity in woman is better.
Yeah.
Yeah, frigidity is better.
That's one of your very good, I think, unpopular poems. I don't find people that know it much.
No.
It's. Do you remember how you came to write it, or whether it was mixed up with some special person or anything like that?
No, it's again what you're always hearing about and watching, and it's funny. I always feel sort of too serious at a wedding. I'm a bad man to have around a wedding. I was saying the other day, what begins in felicity and privacy, ends in publicity, and maybe really ends there. The wedding is the end of it.
It's like your poem, Paul's Wife, and wanting the wife so private that nobody ever hears of her or sees her either.
That's it. Yeah. That's the idea. What begins in felicity, and a career like mine, could end, as someone might say mockingly, what began in felicity and all the privacy and secrecy and furtiveness of your poetry is ending in a burst of publicity. We won't talk about that too much.
I've always meant to ask you some of the poems like Home Burial or A Servant to Servants, or poems like that. Did you write any of those quite some time before your first book was published?
Oh, yes.
Back,
yeah, there's some go way back. One of the strange ones is that I made the Servant to Servants out of 2 or 3 women that looked overwhelmed by life, and going out of their reason. And I was very young judging them. They looked old to me at 35. They were 35, and one of them did go, I heard afterward, but years and years and years after I wrote that, a little girl comes up to me in Hartford, Connecticut, and said, my grandmother wants to be remembered to you. I said, your grandmother? She said, Mrs. Bailey. And I said, that's somebody I thought must have left the world a long time ago. She says she's in her 90s and she's the best of us all. And I said, where's he, her husband? Oh, long gone. And I just had her written off, and she'd lived about 70 years after I'd written her off, you see. And you get that wrong about some of them. But the other 2 that I had in mind went the sad way. And the young person makes judgments about those things and jumps at conclusions that make literature, and you don't have to be right all the time. The answer is that may not have been come out that way in that case, but there is such a thing as it's coming out in that way. See, the generalization, you get the generalization. But that was pleasing to hear that she'd been all right. And one on me. See, I like anything that's on me.
Did you really see or just hear about the pen up in the attic made with the poles all smooth?
I've seen that. Yeah, that was that case. Yeah, and I've heard of 3 or 4 people have written to me about that. They've known of pens like that where they thought they ought to keep people at home, mad people.
It's partly a poem like The Subverted Flower, and
Yeah.
the way what happened to her father's brother and to her mother then got her that way about love and sexuality, and I think it's a wonderful poem about the complete, as they always say, loss of affect, all emotion completely leaving a person who goes insane in that way. It's got the sort of tiredness and complete blankness as well as almost any poem I've ever read.
I like. Yeah, I'm glad that's you speaking. These estimations have to be yours. If I win with you, that's a lot to me.
Well, I've often read Home Burial to people and heard them talk about it, a lot of people, and it's very interesting to see how differently people respond to it. Quite a number of readers say right away, well, all men are that way and all women are that way, and that's all there is to it.
No.
And I've noticed that women particularly, a lot of them sympathize with the man, and they won't admit that there's any fault whatsoever in him. They blame it entirely on the woman.
Yeah.
And I was kind of interested in this. It seems to me that having the man so very fond of those proverbs that he repeats in such a complacent, reassuring way, and always having him appeal to popular opinion instead of personal conviction, and having him care less about his wife's final confession to him, which really is sort of the climax of their lives, to having him care less about that than about what somebody coming down the road will think to see her crying and bareheaded on the threshold. Don't you mean those and like things to characterize him very strongly?
Not too severely.
No. It's a two-sided poem, but
without too much blame on either side.
Yeah.
I like to, I always like to think I can make a tragedy with nobody to blame, and that might. Where I first thought of that, I don't know, but of course George Meredith talks about that in tragic life, no villain need be.
Yes.
And I've always thought that. I think I got it too from Boethius where he says that conflict in the world is one of good and good, not good and evil. All that's got sunk into me very young. I said to Amy Lowell once, are these worth putting in? I said to her, she said to me first, after all, what's the difference between your country characters, New England characters, and mine? I said, Amy, your stories are more like Shakespeare's. You have to have a villain to make a tragedy, and I managed to get along without it. She said, you like yours better. I said, I didn't say that. You're more like Shakespeare, I said. You have to have an out-and-out villain. And that's all right with me. I suppose I'm a little, there's a curious, shyness or diffidence. I don't like to quite make anybody a villain. Everybody's a villain or nobody is, that kind of feeling.
Yeah, Goethe said that there was something so reconciling in his nature, that he never could bear to have things a complete tragedy.
Yeah.
And he doesn't have any.
Did he say that? Yeah.
It seems to me in a home burial that you feel that everything is particular and personal and full of exaggerated intrinsic force to her, and to him everything is generalized and the way everybody sees it and what everybody agrees it must be.
Well, I like to have my attention called to that. That's instinctive. I made it more, there's more instinct to that. That's good. That interests me. I claim that.
Well, I don't know any poem that has two people that talk more differently, down to the last rhythm and foot and just emotion and everything like that. He has this really rather hollow, heavy, rather rumbling sound, and she has the most terrifically intense. So you usually don't have any, so to speak, sprung rhythm effects where you have two or three stresses coming right together, but you really do in her speeches.
Yeah.
My favorite interior rhyme in a poem is where she says, "I don't know rightly whether any man can," like that.
Yeah.
You both have that rhyme and have the two strong stresses right together. But you can go over everything she says, and she has about 20 or 30 little patches where she'll have two or three accents all together, just hitting them with such intense force.
I haven't read that for a long time. I never read it aloud.
Oh, you don't?
No, I'm shy of that.
Yeah.
Then they asked me to read it. You see, it's some things are too near in on me, too near inside, and I don't seem to want to read them aloud. It isn't that I think a bit less of them, I just don't. I'm asked to read it often, and I just pass it over. There's some little delicate ones like that too that I'd never read aloud. This public life I've got into is more or less an accident.
Yeah.
I never set out to do it. I got $50 for doing it once first, and I got called out into it, and I needed the living, and I nearly died doing it, but I conquered it sort of. But there's still places that there are reserves, things I don't wear on my sleeve. I'd rather somebody else would do it. I can read The Witch of Cause with great gusto.
Yeah.
But I couldn't read that.
It's a more terrible one than The Witch of Cause.
Oh yeah. The other's more of is a good showpiece, you don't, and it's a good short story. It is, and a good little play.
How early did you write Home Burial? Do you remember now?
The Witch of Cause?
No, Home Burial.
Oh, I probably wrote that in, let me see, I wrote that around the beginning of the century, I guess. Let me just see. All of those began about that time. The first one I wrote it two ways. I wrote The Black Cottage in rhyme and meter once and threw it away. And then this one, probably in, let's see if I could get it, anything. No, where I was. Let's see. This, it was in the 90s. And it was soon after something happened not right after, but something happened that led me to think of it all. Somebody that breakup I saw in a family and all that. See, you're never clear inside. You don't want to be. You have to go inside on your own. They don't tell you everything that you put about themselves. You have to know that out of your own nature. a lot of things in yourself and all that. This, I knew of a burial like that. They used to, the little graveyards are right on the farms in New England. I don't know how it is in the South. They don't let them bury in them anymore unless they have to get permission from the town or something. But they used to put them away. They stand right out in the open fields, some of them, where they mow all around them. There's a little fence around the old graveyard, 5 or 6 graves in it, something like that. No more than that sometimes, as little as that. But those, you see, places where you go down into things, where you really go down into things, are on your own nature, don't you?
Yeah, you don't.
They haven't
You
told
don't have
you
anything else to go by.
No. That's why I probably don't like read it. It's too much me, too much what could be me. The Witch of Course and A Servant to Servants and The Pauper Witch, were they written back pretty much the same time, or no,
they came later, didn't
far
they?
apart. The Servant to Servants early, and along with this other one. I had quite a spell there, just the turn of the century, and some I couldn't remember now on which side all of them came, but they were all before I went to England. I've forgotten whether I added one in England, and I don't know, but it was just that time before I went to England that I had that spell. I left for England in 1911, didn't I? Something like that. And then I was teaching and farming at the same time from about 1900 to that time. Part of the time sheer farming, part of the time I had one leg in school. Get a little extra money to pay doctor's bills and things like that.
Did you write The Fear about the same time?
Yeah. You know, I wrote, I think I made that one all in my head and remembered it to write down. I think I did. I may be mistaken about it. But I in a train one day, went far from paper and pencil. I think I made all of that. I made most of it, the speeches and all. And some of these things I was very swift about. The mountain one, most of them I wrote in one sitting. The mountain one, I can remember the sitting.
How about Home Burial?
And the Home Burial is all in one sitting. Oh, yeah. There was great intensity in that. And there was the death of the hired man. I remember, that's one of the early ones, and I remember feeling very exhausted in the middle of it and being afraid I'd have to stop and hoped I'd ever get back to it tomorrow. I have that in me, that fear of getting interrupted. And so I did stop. That's put together. I managed to keep going on it afterward. It's foolish to be that way. You know, the long one, New Hampshire,
yes.
I rode all night. Didn't get out of a chair for between 10 or 11 o'clock at night and 9 o'clock the next morning.
And then would you go over it quite a bit later?
Well, it's very extraordinary to see how little I changed it. Now I remember what a clean thing the mountain was. I may have changed an A or an "the" in it, nothing more than that, you know. I never wrote any line over again in it. And the fear, I don't think I did. I may have had a little trouble with a patch or something here and there, in any one of them, somewhere where the wouldn't go right, and I skip it and go on and leave that place to work on later, you know. And that's so with some lyrics. You get in trouble with the rhyme and meter, someplace, but you can see the rest of the poem coming, and you don't stop for that. You let come back to that. How you see it coming, it's funny, the sense of it coming, the logic of it. You feel ahead of you, and you're afraid you'll miss that climax that's coming on, that you depend on for a good ending.
Yes. If you
thought that
if you
out,
write an end out beforehand, why then you can't use it.
No, it wouldn't ever come up to it. No. The thing's got to. Anything I think out, which is bad as translation, to write a thing out in prose first and then write it into verse. You just can't do that. That just spoils it.
It always puzzled me no end that Yeats did that. It's hard to believe.
Well,
but he didn't.
Let's not bring up Yeats.
No. we wouldn't
He
agree.
did all sorts of things that I can't understand. He said to me that writing poetry to him was nothing but chewing pencils and sweating blood. And you see, that's just absolutely something I can't understand. I wouldn't have written if that's what the life was. The exhaustion from the success of a poem is, it's the greatest fun in the world.
Oh, yeah.
And if you ever have the thing just go itself and carry you with it, you just wait around, loaf around, become a bum waiting for it to happen again.
I think your unconscious chews the pencils and splits the wood.
Did what?
I think your unconscious chews the pencils and spits the blood, and that's why you aren't more bothered by it.
You go through all the failures, and you go through the living, and you go through all the effort and talk of getting the phrase right, getting the word right. Your life is like that. Your thoughts are like that. You work out things in the night. I've been saying lately, for partly for the fun of it, if you suffer from insomnia, treat your insomnia with respect. Don't give it pills. It's in insomnia that you'll probably do all the thinking you ever do. Somebody came up and said to me, "Don't treat my insomnia so flippantly, please. I never get I haven't had any sleep for years, except 4 hours a night on one pill." I said, "That probably take more than one as you go on." But that's my, you have hours, what keeps me awake is a sense of anticipation, something I have to do without being all worked up about it, so unaccountable anticipation feeling. I don't know where it is. Somebody's coming down the train that day, or I've got something to do that isn't a very terribly dangerous thing or too important. But the anticipation will make a short night of it, that's all. And sometimes it could call it insomnia. But all these pains of life and of thought and of disorder and bother and all that, sure, that belongs to literary life. But the moment when you can really, when a poem takes hold of you and goes itself, you couldn't call that chewing pencils or sweating blood. That the danger of that is facility, and you don't want to be facile. I've often the only self-denial I have is to drop writing when I've got into a state of too great facility. See, I could write one poem after another, day after day after day. And I'd be afraid of myself by doing that. I'd be afraid I'd write an epic or something. And I don't seem not to want to do that. I want good breaks so that the new poem will start from a new, come in from a new slant. And I want to have the poem really seize me. Want it to be a seizure. And it may creak and groan a little because I don't keep my hand in. I'd rather it would than that I'd get to be a virtuoso so that I could write any time without anything seizing me at all. Browning did that, the last of it. Just think of the great days of Browning, 10 years of unsuccess, struggle to get in, great creaking and groaning, that's all he does for pages. Then 10 years of dramatic lyrics and romances, beautiful. And then the great virtuosity, he could write Browningese and with his brain tied behind his back.
Yeah.
And you don't want virtuosity. I heard teachers say once that the master can write anything at any time.
um,
Don't want to be a master then.
I wanted to ask you to read 4 or 5 short poems that I never have heard you read.
Yeah. You got the pages?
Yeah, I do. I never have heard you read a Beech at the start of Witness Tree, and
oh, that thing?
Yeah.
That's a funny one. That Moody Forrester, that's my mother's name. And I made this all up, This is a mischief one. Where my imaginary line bends square in woods, an iron spine and pile of real rocks have been founded. And off this corner in the wild, where these are driven in and piled, one tree, by being deeply wounded, I pronounce that, I suppose, has been impressed as witness tree, and made commit to memory my proof of being not unbounded. Thus truths established and borne out, though circumstanced with dark and doubt, though by a world of doubt surrounded. That was written in funny state of mind, just being really as a kind of preface, for the hell of it, sort of. Zacchaeus, he did climb a tree, our Lord to see, the New England Primer. Having a funny carrying on, Larkin. They're bringing out a little book of poems, my poems, that can be used for children. And I'm just dedicating it today to my mother, to Belle Moody Frost, as a teacher who knew as teacher that no poem was good for children that wasn't equally good for their elders. See? That there is no such thing as purely child poetry. See, that's saying there's a lot of this. This is a rebuke to a lot of people that write a lot of trash just for children. No. And my mother was that way. She wouldn't have let me. I never had any reading of any kind that was only for children. Prose or verse, too. I brought up just if everything. You could reverse that if you wanted and say that there is much poetry that's good for elders that isn't good for children, but there is no poetry, I'd like to put that into, and there is no poetry good for children that isn't equally good for their parents.
Yes.
And a lot of people make the foolish mistake of saying my children love to have a Paradise Lost read to them. That's very bad for the children. They grow up to think poetry is just a matter of vowels and consonants. That's very fatal. We aren't using too much tape, are we?
You mentioned your mother once when when we were talking about the lovely shall be choosers.
Yeah. Well, that's her story in a way, as much as right there that I've thought of. That's thinking about her. This same idea. The women always get the worst of it.
Do
Poor things.
do you remember when you wrote it or anything about
Yes,
writing it?
I surely do. I remember just where I sat when I wrote it. I had that was up in Franconia, and in that I had on account of the coldness around the floor up in that house, I had a sort of a platform that I could move around, built out of 2x6s, I guess was, lifted me 6 feet up, and I had my chair up in that, and I remember sitting where I sat, writing that poem. Wrote it right off, you know.
Did you?
Reel it right off.
It's you know, half of it's very characteristic of you, but the style is some of it is rather different. Or
Yeah.
it's do you think maybe that that thinking about the 7 joys of Mary, or maybe
No.
thinking about your mother or something
No.
made your style go different, or
I
what do you
wasn't-
imagine it
I
was?
wasn't thinking of the 7 of anybody else. I just thought those came out that way, you know. 1, 2, 3, 4, right down, 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 play to the bottom. Sad.
Do you remember at all how you thought of doing it in the terms of the voices, the demons
just,
or whatever they are?
No, just came on that way. No, I don't know any calculation. There's very little calculation. I sometimes start a poem wrong. That's the thing that happens often. There's a hanker in me for something, and I can't seem to find what'll satisfy the hanker. And then when I get it, I go.
A long time ago, I saw you'd written out Neither Out Far Nor In Deep in a book for somebody.
Yeah.
And it was in an early version, and the last stanza of it was different.
Yeah.
And
that happens sometimes. And for instance, I just found myself the one called Design, and it exists out in the Huntington Library in one of those letters I and my wife sent to Mrs. Ward of the New York Independence out there in that accumulation there. And I had forgotten I had that poem around. And I picked it up, looked at it, and saw at once that the tail end of it was nothing, and I put a new tail onto it, a new stinger.
you mean for years,
Years,
Design
years,
just
years,
didn't exist
years.
except in a letter?
Yeah, I didn't. Well, it had been ended, but I thought very weakly when I found that. I was surprised how good the poem was if it only had another touch on it. And I redeemed that. No, I once, I don't pretend that I don't change them. I changed something, but I hate to have them get out of my hands before I've done the change. I hate anyone to see a change like that.
Yes.
They'll always tell me I spoiled it. They always tell me I spoiled it every time. I did the little one about nothing gold can stay, and I wrote it into a lady's book, and I wrote it quite different from what it is. It stands. The last half of it, it's as short as it is, the last half was different. And then I published this, and she wrote to me and said, "You've spoiled my beautiful poem." And then I heard that her house burned down, and I said that makes that all right with me if your house burned down. She said, "But another lady made a copy of it," and I said, "Give me her number." Her house number.
Once I had a class, and we were starting out reading some of your poems, and there was one girl that was crazy about your poetry, and we read The Witch of Coast that she'd never read before, and we read that the first day, and we read home burial the next day. And finally she looked at me indignantly and she said, "That's not my Robert Frost." But later on she got inured even to that.
That was Trilling's Robert Frost.
I wanted to ask you about that. Let's see, I wrote something down here. Let me. I wrote, "I was amused to hear just the other day that your poem seemed very strange and terrifying in a country way to a city critic." And I was curious to hear what his criticism sounded like to you.
Well, I couldn't hear it all, and I haven't read it, but I sat right beside him, and it startled me. But if you stop and think of it this way, that girl's outcry was a good deal like his talk, you see. And I was rather surprised that he had to have me terrifying. What surprised me most was he's bringing D.H. Lawrence into it all the time. I never thought of myself in anything, you know. But I never read D.H. Lawrence on American literature. Never thought of it. I didn't think, where did he get that name, D.H. Lawrence? The Sophocles I didn't mind, but the D.H. Lawrence just seemed queer to me. I got up and really staggered by it, unprepared for. I'd never read him before, but I decided it's all right with me. He wrote a note saying you'd just soon people would be quarrel over you, and I suppose I would. I haven't the requisite immunity, resistance. You know, I don't read criticism enough, and so I was very taken aback. He wrote and said he heard I was distressed. I wouldn't say I was distressed. I was nonplussed. I hardly got my talk going afterwards. See, I had to stand up and be as terrible as he said. If I'd stood up and thought of that, you know, of course there are. Those are really terrible things. You name those four, you give anyone a dose of the Witcher Coas, the home burial, the subverted flower, and the lovely shall be choosers, and they're rather terrific, you know, if you want.
Yeah, and you could take 12 or 15 more with no trouble.
Yeah, the witch, the other witch is a good one too. She's quite a girl.
Yeah.
Pauper witch.
Yeah, I was pleased to see that that Auden put her in his anthology of American poems. I never had seen her in an anthology.
Yeah, of course, I never set myself either way. I never set myself optimistic or pessimistic or all. I haven't never give it a thought. It's no more. I like to make a good poem. I like to have it come out well. Mean what I want it to mean. Separate poem. Look, it's this meaning. If I got any meaning as a whole, see, it's for you to look after. But me, you put a cent piece under a piece of paper, and put your pencil back and forward across it, and a figure comes out. Well, my poems are just one line across, and then another line back, and another line back. Those are the poems, and they bring out some figure that may be me or somebody else.
It seems to me that the terrible poems are much more terrible, and the tender and loving poems are much more tender and loving because of the existence of the other half. When you have a poet that's all one side, why it's marvelous, but you don't believe him to the same extent. It's the opposite of what you say that makes you thoroughly believe in what you say, almost.
Yeah, you think, yeah, I suppose that's what you'd say. I have written a lot of things, you know, do you know the art of America in Yucatan and Peru has a pretty girl in it?
No.
There's nothing of the Greek prettiness, or just loveliness. You see, they're all terrible, and all got death and and horrid gods.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes great art too it is, but there's always that terribleness. Egypt has a mixture. Greek gets almost purely noble and pretty, lovely. Then the church goes back. That's what Yeats means, bring his name up again, by sailing to Byzantium. Leaving Greece, it means going up to Byzantium. Severities of religion and mosaic instead of smooth carving. That's what Yeats was thinking about. He'd been talked into it by Pound and Hume. Been scared about the Greeks.
One way I think you're very different from almost all the poets I know is that you seem to me to have more of a scientific mind and more scientific information than any other poet I know.
Yeah.
I mean, you think of things astronomically, very naturally.
Yeah, there's a lot of astronomy in the poem.
And you're continually talking about evolution and what they ecology, or if that's how you say it.
Yeah.
And botany, of course.
Yeah.
And it's I can't think of any other poet that thinks so much of people as being animals in nature and changed by nature and nature taking their place and so on.
I was thinking the other day you was putting some of my poems together, but I was noticing lately how much astronomy I had in, how much Sirius I have in it.
Yeah.
And used to always have a telescope. It's been taken away from me. My grandson out here has it, 4-inch glass. Always, I've often thought if things had gone a certain way, I might have been an astronomer, I might have been an archaeologist, I might have been several things, you know. My education was like that. I'd have an awful go at something. My mother helped me get a little cheapest telescope because I had to have it. She sold some magazine that I tried to get subscriptions for and failed. She had her friends buy it, so I'd have a little telescope.
Was the man in the Star Splitter a real man?
Yeah. Of course, that a good deal I put into it.
Yeah, I figured that.
But he did we did say in the neighborhood that he burned the house down for the telescope. He got the money. I've known of people burned their house down that didn't get their money, you know. There was too much suspicion.
When I was talking about the sciences, I meant to put in archaeology because you have quite a number of poems where you talk about prehistoric man or things left over, the handprints and the bones and everything.
That one. Yeah, I'm always very fond of arrowheads and everything. I can't own very much of the rarities. I got a tiny little piece of gold from Peru that somebody sent me, and just a little scrap. I hope I don't get arrested for having it.
Another short one I never have heard you read is Atmosphere. Let me find
that's in a garden, isn't it? What did I call that? Or just Atmosphere that I call.
And then there's a kind of subtitle, or just a minute, I'll find where it is.
This is very, I didn't know what this is going to be. This is all my glorification. I thought you were going to go for me about something.
No.
About theories of art and everything.
I never talk about theories of art.
What?
I never talk about theories of art.
Don't you?
No, I don't know them.
No, I don't much, but I thought maybe you were going to make me.
I'm. Oh, this is. I never heard you read In a Disused Graveyard. Would you read that for me?
Yeah.
Okay. That's 269, and I'll look for atmosphere.
Oh, that's right. The living come with grassy tread to read the gravestones on the hill. The graveyard draws the living still, but never any more the dead. The verses in it say and say, the ones who living come today to read the stones and go away, tomorrow dead will come to stay. So sure of death, the marbles rhyme, yet can't help marking all the time how no one dead will seem to come. What is it men are shrinking from? It would be easy to be clever and tell the stones, men hate to die and have stopped dying now forever. I think they would believe the lie. Isn't that a funny one? I haven't read that for a long time.
Oh, it's a peach. It's always seemed to me the most monstrous injustice that's right across the page from Fire and Ice, and you see Fire and Ice in every anthology, and I've never seen that reprinted anywhere.
Never mentioned that. When the book was new, I remember someone, one of the friends, critics, said he didn't understand that at all, but it seems that as if the irony, the bitterness and everything was as plain as could be. We don't want to die, ain't it funny?
When I was looking in a boy's will, the one that seems to me most like your later poems, in almost every way, so you couldn't tell, is In Hardwood Groves.
Yeah. You know, I put that. Do you realize that wasn't in the boy's will when the book was first printed? I took out one about asking for roses that I thought was too sentimental, and this much later poems in there.
Well, I feel smart.
Aren't you smart? Yeah.
I never heard you read that. Would you?
Yes, sir. That's a funny thing, you notice that. The same leaves over and over again. They fall from giving shade above to make one texture of faded brown and fit the earth like a leather glove. Before the leaves can mount again to fill the trees with another shade, they must go down past things coming up. They must go down into the dark decayed. They must be pierced by flowers and put beneath the feet of dancing flowers. However it is in some other world, I know that this is the way in ours. Yeah, that's a later poem. Isn't that funny? The roses one, I took a notion against it. Maybe I was wrong. Too sentimental. I did sappy.
It's queer reading a boy's will to find so many things quite like you, but then to find all the regular poetic inversions and poetic license and tis and or and list and so on.
See, they gradually eliminated themselves. I never did it on purpose. I just got a little shy about using poeticisms, ashamed of them a little. Felt a false feeling about them. And the first one that's kept in here, the butterfly, is the worst, you see, in that respect. The butterfly one, I only kept it for one passage in it. And where is it? There it is, isn't it?
Yeah.
You see the passage that I liked. Of course, this was very young. I was 17 when I wrote this. The gray grass is scarce dappled with the snow. Its two banks have not shut upon the river, but it is long ago, it seems forever, since first I saw thee glance. You see, I wouldn't do that now. Since first I saw thee glance, is speaking to the butterfly. Since first I saw thee glance with all thy dazzling other ones, in airy dalliance, precipitate in love, tossed, tangled, whirled and whirled above, like a limp rose wreath in a fairy dance. That's good. You know, the rest of it isn't so good, but I kept it for that. And I kept it because it was the first poem I ever sold.
You know, the poem about a moth in winter.
Yes.
Did you partly write that a long time ago and then rewrite it, or?
I don't know whether I rewrote it or not. Not much rewritten, but it's something I'd had a long time. You see, once in a while I pick up one that I just had thrown aside, and I've always wanted to feel as if I had some to spare. You know, I don't want to scrape, cut to the bone. I like to have something left. Yeah. And that was one that lay around. I forgot I had it, and I found it and thought I'd keep it.
It must have given.
I don't believe I did much to it, but I don't remember.
It must have given you a different feeling from most poets to have had so many poems for so long before they were published, and I imagine it gives you a kind of independence.
It kept me. You see, I like to feel that way now. I want to feel as if I had a lot to choose from before I make up a book. I don't have to take everything I got. That I'm stripping the pantry bare. And then I like to leave things around to see if they fall into a relationship with each other, however vague, meaning a little to me, to the kind of a thing. And then I like to leave them around till I know just what I want to call a book. I've got about made up my mind what to call the next book, but I'm still at ease about it. I'm not being pressed. I might change my mind. It would depend if I wrote something that gave the book another twist, I might do that.
Would you say me that New and Bound Away? I heard you say it once.
Yeah, away. Now I out walking, the world desert, and my shoe and my stocking do me no hurt. I leave behind good friends in town, let them get well wined and go lie down. Don't think I leave for the outer dark, like Adam and Eve put out of the park. Forget the myth, there's no one I am put out with or put out by. Unless I'm wrong, I but obey the urge of a song. I'm bound away, and I may return if dissatisfied with what I learned from having died. That's a very recent one.
Do you know to say the one about smoke? And
let's see, which one was that?
The one you wrote it about 3 or 4 years ago, I think. The one about smoke and fog and mist.
Oh yeah, I couldn't say it.
Yeah.
You haven't got it. I wouldn't know it all.
I haven't got it. It isn't in the book.
No.
There's one I never have heard you say that. The Ingenuities of Debt. Have you ever said that to an audience? I think that's a Beech, and that's when in Steeple Bush. That's the one I like next best to directive. It's
I never read that in public, but I thought it was probably too hard for them. They aren't economists enough to know what. Know where it is?
Yeah, there it is.
It isn't very long, is it?
No.
The Ingenuities of Debt. These, I assume, were words so deeply meant, they cut themselves in stone for permanent, like trouble in the brow above the eyes. Take care to sell your horse before it dies. The art of living, I should have said that right. The art of life is passing losses on. The city saying it was Ctesiphon, which may a little while by war and trade have kept from being caught with the decayed, infirm, worn out, and broken on its hands. But judging by what little of it stands, not even the ingenuities of debt could save it from its losses being met. Sand has been thrusting in the square of door across the tessellation of the floor, and only rests a serpent on its chin, content with contemplating, taking in, till it can muster breath inside a hall to rear against the inscription on the wall. You know that it might be read, but it'd be better if they'd read it first.
Yeah.
That's what I think happens to. It's what I really think in economics, that they just go on this way until all this junk, playing with money and is dodging debts. That's all it is until they really come home to roost, and they finally a nation perishes. That's where we're going.
Read this one for me, will you?
These fellas think we've taken about as long as we ought. I think we mustn't.
Oh, really? Go ahead. Or?
One more.
Why? You read that one, Ed?
No, I never do, Nature I loved, and next to nature art. That's Lander. And somebody said to me, some dean or somebody said that was just something out of. He twisted it. Well, I corrected in here. Dean, adult education may be silly. What of it, though? I got some willy-nilly the other evening at your college deanery, and grateful for it. Let's not be facetious, for I thought Epicurus and Lucretius by nature meant the whole goddamn machinery. But you say that in college nomenclature, the only meaning possible for nature in Lander's quatrain would be pretty scenery, which makes opposing it to art absurd. I grant you, if you're sure about the word. God bless the dean and make his deanship plenary. He never knew about himself there. But he said right out that all that meant by nature was pretty scenery, like, the nature poets, instead of the depth of things. You see, that goes clear down. The depth of everything, what Lander meant there. Nature.
How much more did you want to record?
What's he saying?
I wanted to know how much longer you wish to go on.
Yeah, we've said, you got about all you need out of me, haven't you? What time is it?
About 5 till 4.
4. You got some?
I don't know.
10 minutes more?
10 minutes
10, 15 more minutes more?
All right.
All right, just well.
I stumbled a little reading that.
That's a nice one.
Yeah.
It,
Ridiculous saying that. That became a kind of a dispute in company one evening with this fella saying that, got very disagreeable. But he never knew I wrote this.
would you read The Lovely Shall Be Choosers?
Just soon not.
Just yeah. Absolutely. I
I
never had heard you read it.
No, I never
No.
read that one.
Okay.
That's one that's a little too close in.
Yeah. I wanted to ask you something about that long poem, Snow. I don't know how to pronounce his name. Meserve or
Meserve.
Yeah. Was he a real man?
Oh yes, in a way, yeah. He's part of the story, yeah. Regular old, just the way his character's drawn there, and that's, he's a little like the hero of The Mask of Mercy. the one that the prophets,
Yeah.
you know, he says a streak of that kind of what they call chapel mind in England. That's their snobbish way, that kind of religious person. I enjoy. Yeah, I knew him. I've known two or three like that. I knew one, what they call a holy roller. It belonged to a very fine sort of man, but quite wild, you know, with religion. They used to hold a meeting in a schoolhouse that I knew of, and one of them would put his head into an ordinary chair to pray, you know, and get excited praying. He'd jump up with the chair on his head and dent holes in the ceiling, bring down the plaster.
You give him some very good things to say. The
The
things about you give him some very good things to say. The part about the page and whether it'll turn or not with the wind.
That's right.
And
That's a long one that has been acted once, twice. The snow one has been.
it seems to me that unless I dream this, that when I was about 15 or 16, I read a play of yours, a one-act play. That's right. It really exists.
Made out of this, is it, or no?
I don't know. It was just. Did you ever write a play? I think
one-act play called A Way Out.
I never have seen it.
It's around in a little book. It's prose.
Yeah.
It's a puzzling. Somebody said I had no right to end it because you can't tell what happens in the end. It's like the.
Oh, I found out where atmosphere is, page 307.
Some of these are not very. Now this isn't very expressive, but sometimes this winds blow the open grassy places bleak, but where this old wall burns a sunny cheek, they eddy over it, too toppling weak to blow the earth or anything self-clear. Moisture and color and odor thicken here. The hours of daylight gather atmosphere. That's a very simple one, you know. What I feel in that kind of thing is that there are enough, you just do it all one tone, you know. And I'm quite... I got rebuked for this once. Some lady said to me, the only poem of mine that she approved of was "Here come real stars to fill the upper skies, and here on earth come emulating flies, that though they never equal stars in size, and they were never really stars at heart, achieve at times a very star-like start, only of course they can't sustain the part." And she much as said I was like that I can't sustain any part. That was... Once in a while somebody gets a shot in at me. They don't catch me in print much because I don't read reviews.
Oh, I had a question for you about a couple of quotations. What would you say about a man who writes that he's one who shrewdly pretends that he and the world are friends, and about the same man who says, "Some people want you not to understand them, but I want you to understand me wrong"?
Oh, I said that once, didn't I? Yeah. What are you going to say to jokes like that? Yeah. Yet, of course, when I wrote that, as one who shrewdly pretends that he and the world are friends, we were bound scraping to each other with Japan, you know, getting ready to kill each other, but bowing and scraping and bowing. And then, what did I say that about? I want you to understand me wrong. I did say that.
Well, as a matter of fact, you give it to my brother's keeper to say, but it's in the part when he's sounding awfully like you.
That's right, yeah, that's what I said. Yeah. Well, you see, That's what you're really saying when you say a figurative thing anyway. See, so the wrong people won't understand it and so get saved. That's one of those things, really, really extremely insulting things to say to people. I don't expect them to get me right. I don't mean that. I don't. That's one of those pieces of persiflage. It's all right. There's something to it, you know.
Oh, I like them fine. I think they're the truth too, and about part of you that's very strong.
Yeah. I'm a son of a really sinner. I was going to say, gotta be careful what we're recording.
like the man in the log jam. The man in the log jam in New Hampshire.
Yeah. Yes, sir. I remember the first time I read that in public in New Hampshire. I read that right through once. And some people were shocked and asked me to take that out, what he said. But I wouldn't do that all the time. I was thinking there's a lot of sentimental swearing in some people's writing, you know. It isn't very manly. It's just sentimental swearing. When Hemingway said that we got to told Pound to get the hell out of there, out of the hospital. That didn't help at all, you know. That kind of get the hell out. That doesn't impress anybody. It does anything, and they know it's just Hemingway being sentimental. It's all right. It's his way of showing affection.
Two of your poems that I thought were the extremely scientific kind are West Running Brook and the Master Speed, and both of them are so much about entropy and it was curious to me to think about them, and particularly about West Running Brook, that any physicist that read it would be pleased at it, and that if Freud read it, or any real psychoanalyst, he'd be very much pleased in the same way, you know, both at the regression and going back toward the source.
The tribute of this current to the source. The tribute of the current to the source. You know, that if there was water running out of here with just a little straight line, not dripping, but a little straight line, you can push it up till it's all curled, has ripples in it back to its source, ripples back to its source. Funny, isn't it? Many of those things I'm always thinking about. I ought to. Well, you know, we're all the same. You are just the same as I am. We all is grist that comes to our mill, various subjects. I felt just like the astronomer said he wasn't, the English astronomer said he wasn't interested in the Sputnik. He said, I'm an astronomer. And I resented it when they all began talking about that star. None of them knew one star from another. They don't know Sirius from Canopus, and I feel as if the sky was my sphere. They have no business talking about it. Let them stay out of the sky with their Sputniks and things. That's the sort of a way you get feeling. That way, he said another nice thing the other day. He said, they're going to Mars and Venus, are they? Did you see that, what he said? He said, well, when they get to Venus, they'll be burned to a crisp instantly. When they get to Mars, they'll be frozen to an icicle instantly. He said, I wish them well. Charming.
I guess we better quit.
Some of these British, you can't stick them, can you? Some of that insularity, you know, is splendiferous. All right. We finished. No, somebody coming?
Yeah.
I'd like you to record. Thanks.
You want me to say this into it? This is Randall Jarrell. I've been interviewing Robert Frost in the recording laboratory of the Library of Congress on May the 19th, 1959.
Now, this will be done here at the beginning. This is.
And you want me to say this? Let's read it together.
No.
Wait a second.
No jokes. All right. This is Randall Jarrell interviewing Robert Frost at the Library of Congress, May the 19th, 1959.
And this, shall I say it too? This is Randall Jarrell
No, you say Robert
entertaining
Frost.
me, Robert Frost, at the Library of Congress, May 19th, 1959, and a very fine time we've had to my advantage.
Goodbye.
More than I deserve. But I didn't know you were going to do this, make so much of me. I thought you were going to talk at large, maybe.
Oh, no, I just wanted to, no, I really wanted more to ask you no end of questions about particular poems and whether
Yeah.
you remember.
Well, you got a lot of them.
Well, yeah, that's right.
It's
That's what I
wonderful.
feel.
It's wonderful.
Thank you.
Gave me a great opportunity. I suppose we'll get copies of this. How do we know about all this? What happens to it? It's in a record for here,
We're going to prepare a listing of the recordings.
and what?
We're going to make a list of the recordings that we have,
Yeah,
so that people will know about them.
yeah.
And Dr. Basler also thought that perhaps sometime in the future, this interview between you and Randall might serve to be made into a record.
Yes. It's
for
long
many-
enough to be one record, isn't it?
Yes, it is, and
Both sides, I guess.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Could you loan him your pen long enough?
Sure will.
I'd like to.
I want to
ask
educate
you
my children for 35 cents a copy.
Now, let's
I want
see.
to ask Mr.
Who's the
Frost
child?
to
For the
leave,
children?
and I
For
want
my
you
children,
to
35 cents a copy. I want to educate them.
if you will
Come and tell me
come
about
here.
who are they. I'll put their names in.
You will
Oh, that'd be wonderful.
this
Just put,
interview, and how
to Cynthia, Linda,
this is
and
not
Junior.
for issue,
That'd be wonderful.
But just how you appreciate this interview, what you think of what you've gotten out of it.
Lin,
What's your assessment?
Cynthia, Linda,
Reaction to it?
Linda.
mhm, and
Well, I can try.
Junior.
I think
What's that
it's
name?
wonderful.
Junior.
All right.
Jani.
No, just JR be fine.
What's that?
JR.
Lee Phillip.
No, wait.
Junior. My son. you
Oh,
know.
Junior.
Uh-huh.
Oh, yes.
That'd be fine.
And Junior.
Now, this be treasured, see? Education at 35 cents.
I believe in those 25-cent books.
Well, the $6 and a half for your collected works has to go towards shoes. Would you want to sit right up here? And
With Randall,
Fine.
I think Mr. Frost will want to go upstairs, and we'll see him upstairs.
Fine. Put it in the water.
May 19th, is it? Stick
Yep,
to
May
that.
19th.
May,
Oh, wait, they put this on there.
that's it.
Thank you very much.
What's this for?
He
That's
he
Mr.
wanted
Jarrell.
me to
What?
do it for him. And
This is for me. For me, is it? Or for
No,
him?
that's to me.
All right.
That's for the same boy.
If you want one, can I give one to you? I'd just love to.
You got another one? for
Yeah,
me?
I've got another one at home.
Have
May I
you?
give you one?
Yeah,
I mean-
yeah.
Whoops.
Well, I don't know. See, I always think that I only exist. See, I only exist in this world by the favor of other people. And he's one, and others, nobody that ever says anything nice to me, but I realize that it's he's the one that deserves credit.
Oh, it's like taking a poor gray photograph of somebody.
Yeah, that's very nice. The Knopf did this, didn't they?
Yeah,
Is that, what's the date of it?
I think it came out about 4 or 5 years ago, about 5.
53. Huh?
53, yeah.
It-
Knopf always makes nice looking book.
Yeah, they do make pretty much.
Oh, yeah. He's the second greatest publisher I've known, personally. Alfred Harcourt was more wonderful, for a wonderful gift of finding big things, you know. And then Knopf is just pretty near his equal, and he has more sense of book form, of course, than Alfred ever had. And they're more gift about books and printing. But he's had a fine list. Alfred Harcourt ran out of my firm, and Henry Holtz, and inside of 2 years, he had the economic consequences of the peace, Main Street, and Strachey's Victoria, and went on from that to have the New Republic crowd and the Manchester Guardian crowd and make a fortune. Just right away, that kind. And you never caught him reading a book. You don't know how he knew all that.
Yeah.
Mrs. Morrison is going to take you upstairs now. I'm going to keep Randall here for a few minutes, and we'll see you upstairs.
You're welcome.
Can you questions?
Okay.
That was fine.
That was a very nice interview.
Yeah.
Very good.
It's all in my glory. I didn't expect that. I thought I was going to have a chance to run everybody else down.
Did you get one for the boy's birthday?
Fine. Got it right there. I'm going to educate him for 35 cents.
That's about all it is. It's going to cost 40.
The one about the brown leaves and
I think I got it from the other. You have a late
Yeah.
edition.
that's right. It's about third or fourth from the end in a boy's will and collection of poems.
How many miles from home are you? You out here with a car?
With an airplane.
Oh,
Yeah, it's just an hour. It's easy. I'll come right on up as soon as I finish this. They want me to do something for about 5 minutes.
No, this ought to be a
Yeah, of course. Of course.
It's too bad he won't stay tomorrow. He can't, he said, he got a class, the
Got to
last
preach.
class of the year.
Got to preach and make them sign on the dot.
I've got to say the last thing about crime and punishment to them. I've been doing it for about a month.
The whole thing, their year has been a crime, and now they get, and today you get the punishment.
Yeah.
I'm going to sit in one place, one the other.
I'm gonna sit,
Let me get you on the air here.
I don't want to be on the air.
No,
you
what
gonna
we
say?
want
No.
to get Randall to give his signature on the conclusion, and then one that we can dub in at the beginning.
Oh, I've
You did
already
that
done
already.
that.
You've
I
already
just
done
did
that,
that,
yeah.
I think.
Now you
you-
want him to comment a little bit on how this turned out and what you think about it. So
Yeah. In other words, what have you, criticism, what did you try to do? What did you do? What do you think about it?
Okay, I don't know what to say exactly, but I'll just say whatever
he
comes
just
to my
sits
mind.
there, wait till he gets away.
Yeah.
I mean, it might be.
Well, look, let's ask
Because this is
Randall.
still going through.
You want to ask, oh, this is going through? As soon as he goes in. Well, we got something else to talk about. Is Zion okay? Wait a second, I don't know what
I was going to ask Frost a certain number of questions about poems. Some of them, 2 or 3 particular kinds. The ones like The Witch of Cos and A Servant to Servant and so on, and the poems about man ceasing to exist and being replaced by nature. And I wanted to ask him quite a few specific questions about some of the early poems and when he wrote them. And I wanted to get him to read a few of the smaller, quite beautiful poems that I don't think he ever has recorded much, those rather than a lot of the big ones that he has. He talks so well and is so inspired that it's very hard to go on with anything like that. You get just thinking of what he's saying and listening, and you hate to pay attention to your questions or go back to any particular place. And so about half the questions I had I still haven't asked. But it was I think it's a great pleasure to get to hear him talk about his poems as he does, and about whatever comes to his mind, because, you know, as anybody knows, besides being one of the best poets ever, he certainly is one of the best talkers ever. You have the feeling after you've well, you know, when you ask a few questions about such poems, you feel rather silly and they feel very inadequate. But I was hopeful that that it would make it fairly easy and natural for him to talk about them a good deal. And I must say, some of the things he talked about, I never had heard him say before.
Did you get any particularly new insights as a result of this interview that you didn't have before?
Well, it was a great surprise to me to hear how many of them he'd done all at one sitting, and that's quite astonishing. I know hardly anybody else that does that, and some of the poems that he said he did all in a few hours are some of his most complicated poems, just marvelously worked out. And it makes it pretty plain, I think, that a lot of the most elaborate connections are unconscious ones, that, you know, it is a matter of straight inspiration and not a matter of working them out carefully, consciously or half-consciously.
Well, didn't your questions have a certain motive, though, on the matter of the extinction of the man? Did you satisfy yourself as to whether your ideas were on the right track, so to speak?
Well, that's plainly true, and he knows it. Actually, there are about 8 or 10 other poems that I meant to ask him about, and that several of them we mentioned as we were walking down the hall before we got in here. But some of the other poems that I can give you the names. You take poems like The Last Mowing, or The Birthplace, or Why Wait for Silence, or Bursting Rapture, or Closed for Good, or then Ghost House and Directive and The Census Taker, and or an early poem like Pan With Us is partly this way. Or he mentioned the need of being versed in country things, and that's one of the ones I have here. It's queer. It's an almost obsessive theme with him. It's been coming up ever since he was 20 years old or so, and it's quite an unusual theme. You know, very few other poets or writers have ever written about it much, and it's queerest of all to have him keeping on with it so long, and then to have everything happen along those lines that has happened lately.
Some of the poems are obviously connected, or perhaps not obviously, but may have been connected with events and experiences of his own, which he never talks much about. Does that have any influence on your own interpretation of the poetry that he has written?
Well, he, I think he not only often feels that the poem says it better than he can say it, but he feels somewhat reticent about talking about it, and he'll have a rather light or offhand way of talking about it, and he'll rather minimize. For instance, the way he talked about directive to begin with, it sounded like a poem that wouldn't trouble anybody. You know, it just is saying that we go back to the past and history and the beginning of our experience. But of course, it is an extremely troubling poem, besides being a very beautiful and marvelous one. But I think just as he didn't want to read The Lovely Shall Be Choosers or Home Burial because they're too personal, why that sometimes he doesn't want to talk about things the way somebody from outside would talk about it.
Randall, I want to ask you here, there's a possibility that the library might be able to issue this as a record sometime, provided we can get Robert Frost's permission. Will you grant your permission for this to be issued as a record?
Well, I wouldn't mind. I'd sort of want to see how it was done, and whether I'd want to see about what parts might be cut occasionally, or how the whole thing ought to be arranged, or anything like that.
This would be subject to your approval. There may be a few spots that...
There is more than we would want.
Oh, there's more than we would want in any event for a record, but that a record such as you would approve and he would approve might be issued.
Well, I wouldn't mind at all, because all I wanted to be was just a kind of series of questions.
We'll discuss this further, but I just wanted to ask you about this before I had to leave. So
yeah, that'd be fine.
Henry, you can, well, I'll talk to you about that
All right.
further.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Sure.